and mentors and how all that kind of went about. So what's it like to conduct an orchestra? I mean, I don't know what that's like, but when you do you remember the first time you did it? I mean, like you're there, you're with professional musicians now and people that have mastered their craft. So what is that like? I mean, when you get up there and you hear all these
It's
sounds.
it's really humbling, you know, to think you look down. I mean, one of the first experiences that I really recall was being in front of members of the then Denver Symphony, which is now the Colorado Symphony, and looking down at the heroes that I respected that I hadn't had a chance to conduct. And my feeling was being humble and
Right.
and asking for what the score provided and dealing with people just as human beings. And the funniest compliment that I ever received was, you know, you seem like an orchestra player. You don't seem like a conductor,
Wow.
which was,
Wow.
I thought, that's real. I mean, that is out there. You seem like a real player. You don't seem like a conductor. And I thought that was funny. And I've always remembered that. It came from, I think, an oboe player or something, that you seem like a real player. You deal with us like human beings. And I thought that's the key. That is the key. I've never lost my temper. I've never thrown things. I've never accused people of playing wrong notes. I mean, I feel like I'm another player, but I'm in a different spot, and
Gotcha.
and that has always served me well.
That's tremendous, Kirk. That's great to hear. And you know what? You seem a little bit more relaxed these days, you know?
It,
See, look at it. There's that smile, man. That's what I see. That's what I remember about you. Yeah.
it, it comes with age. I mean, hell, I'm 62.
Yeah.
And then I was 20 something. It comes with
Right.
age. And
Right.
and and then, I thought when I came to Shenandoah, I was the worst musician on campus. That's why I worked so hard. I thought I mean, all of these people who had been to all state this and all
Oh
state
my
that,
goodness.
and they had all their medals, and all of this. And here I was. I I started playing clarinet in the ninth grade.
Right.
I didn't have lessons until I was a junior in high school. And all of a sudden, I'm placed with all of these famous people who have done this and that and the other. And I thought, oh, I'm the worst guy here. That's why I worked. I
Gotcha.
worked. And there was
Right.
uh, uh, a senior clarinetist who everybody loved, and she was the best thing since sliced bread. And I went to her and I said, Debbie, what do
Oh,
I
I know
need
who.
to do? Or you know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
I
Yes, I
said,
do.
Debbie, what do I do to become good? And she said, well, Kirk, why don't you meet us in the practice rooms at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we'll talk to you about it. And so she gave me a list of things that I could do. And she said, now you got to do this every day.
Right.
And I remember one day when I missed, and she saw me in the auditorium, the Armstrong Auditorium. She said, I guess you're not interested in being good anymore. And I never missed another day.
Yes.
Now, all of that goes on, and I'm a senior. And the kid comes up to me and says, Kirk, what do I have to do to be as good as you? And I
Mm.
just smiled and I said, why don't you meet us in the practice rooms tomorrow morning at 5, and we'll talk to you about it. I mean, who could write a better story? That's what
Right.
that's what we were about. And I don't regret a second of that at all.
That's really cool, Kirk. I know who you're talking about, and I thought, when I went there, it was kind of competitive. I mean, people are always trying to make this group, that group be at make this chair, first chair, whatever chair, and when you look back at all that, like you as a conductor, you work on things and you get ready to perform. So I guess where I'm going with this, and I'm leading up to this question, so you put in the work, you do everything, And now, in life, we all give various performances, but as a conductor, you control the tempo, you control everything. How do you, everything that you've worked on during your rehearsal sessions, when you get into that performance, do the butterflies take over? I'm not saying nerves so much, but do you feel like you're amped up a little bit? And, do you have to remind yourself, hey, keep everything the way we rehearsed it? How do you control that?
Well, with a real fine professional orchestra, or conductors have to remember they have no control.
Okay.
You know, they're going to play at their standard. If you're conducting the Atlanta Symphony or the Chicago Symphony or the Dallas Symphony, they're going to play the way they play. It's up to you not to screw it up.
Okay.
And as a guest conductor, you're there for 2 or 3 rehearsals, and you can't say I'm going to put my stamp on the Chicago Symphony in 3
Right.
rehearsals. It's we're going to do this together. We're going to have fun. We're going to make great music. But in the end, they're going to play the way they play. And it's really refreshing for me because you've got all of these, you've got almost 100 people who know more about the music than you could possibly know collectively. And
Hmm.
so if you're someone that walks in front of them and goes, I have the solution, I'm the guy, yet you're dead in the water. They will play. I've seen performances of young famous conductors who will get up and they'll do their thing, and in the performance their orchestra does its thing, because you can't. So it's a matter of,
Right.
oh my God, they want to take time here. That's great. Let's take time here. They want to make the phrasing here. That's wonderful too. They've done it under a million different, absolutely amazing dead conductors. Hey, who am I as a
Gotcha.
guest conductor? So it's a really humbling kind of thing, knowing people who have been in a practice room for 10,000 hours. The 10,000 hour thing. They've worked their craft, and here's this conductor who's waving his or her arms, and they
Right.
get the check. A famous teacher of mine once said, you get in front of an orchestra and you screw up, you should offer them a part of your check, because they're going to save you every time.
Right. That's amazing. That I've never heard it put in that context before. That is amazing. And you brought up something, being a guest conductor. How difficult is that?
It can be really difficult if you don't have your mind about you. They know why you're there. You know why you're there. They have played, professional orchestra will do 2 or 3 different concerts in 2 weeks.
Right.
And when a guest conductor comes in, all they want to know is, does this guy know what the heck he's doing, or does this gal know what the heck she's doing? And can we have a little bit of fun and make music and communicate and blah? And after the concert, you might think, oh, they're all going to come around me and go, oh, you're wonderful. You know what they're going to do? They're going to go back home and take care of their kid. They're going to go back home to their wife or their husband. They don't
Right.
care. I mean, it's unless they know you. I've had people come backstage and go, "Oh my God, I remember you when," and but really, it's just another gig.
Right.
It really is just another gig that they want to do well, and that's a part of life. Nobody wants to do their gig poorly. Nobody wants
Right.
to have a guest come in and do their gig poorly. So it's up to you to whatever the circumstance is, to be the best you can possibly be on that day, so that they go home saying, "Hey, it wasn't too bad."
Right. That you know that's putting things in context, because I've met some people from Atlanta that play in the symphony, and they're like everybody else. Everybody thinks they're up here somewhere, and hey, man, they're out there doing their own thing, and they have kids, they play sports, they do this, they do that, gymnastics, whatever it is. Which leads me to my next question. You gotta talk to me about CBD oil, the hemp works. How did you, and I call that closing business daily, CBD, but tell me how you got involved in that.
Well, I was having physical problems, and it was suggested to me, to try the oil.
Uh huh.
And I found somebody who I trusted, and they got me hooked up with the business and with the product.
Oh,
And I
wow.
mean, there was a period of time 2.5 years ago that I couldn't stand for rehearsals. I always had to have a stool.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, I really couldn't. I could barely walk properly, the whole deal. And I thought, what's going on? I started taking the product and using the topical oils, and bam! I mean, look at me. I'm an energetic guy. Two and a half
Right.
years ago, I was a slug.
Really.
So I started using the selling the product, and for me, that's a way of giving back. I mean,
Hmm.
it's the industry is flourishing. I mean, this industry is bigger than the NFL financially.
Right.
It's huge, and if you are with the right company with the right product,
Hmm.
it's absolutely amazingly huge. And so I happened to fall into the right product with the right company, and I've not regretted it since. So I'm all about that financially, and enjoying that collaboration.
And who would ever have thought CBD oil? I mean, I've taken it and it does work. I've noticed some differences, as we all get older, you get aches and pains. It really does work. There are, do you have, what type of brands do you have? Do you put it in your coffee, under your tongue, or do you have for instance, can you give me an example what you have?
The brand I work for My Daily Choice, which a part of that is HempWorks
Hmm.
International, and the oils I ingest, and I
Wow.
ingest twice a day.
Wow.
Um, and then I use the topical cream called Relief Cream on various parts of my body, which takes away potential pain and all of that. And it
Hmm.
it works. I mean, as a conductor, if you can't stand and move, you can't conduct.
Right.
So
Right.
it saved my professional life. Um,
Whew.
and people who buy into it, uh, almost everyone, it changes their physiology, because the cannabinoid system is a natural part of our bodies
Hmm.
that has been taken away. It used to be that you could get the stuff, and I mean decades ago, you could get the stuff, and it's a part of your body. But since previously it had been legal, or had been
Right.
deemed illegal, then nobody. I mean, it is amazing. Uh, I was not the way I am now. We could not have this kind of animated
Wow.
discussion 2.5
Wow.
years ago.
And
So
what created your problem, Kirk? I mean, did you know what were the telltale signs? Were you slowing up or just in pain or
not being able to walk, that's a big thing.
really? No
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it looked as though that I was on drugs or something. I couldn't, I was unsteady on my feet, and it hurt
Wow.
like heck. And I was looking for anything to help. And so the doctor prescribed these opioids that
Right.
made me, in another world. And I thought, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be another statistic. So I started looking, and this is what I found. So, I think people who hear from their friends, "Oh, you have to try this." Yeah, you have to try this, because it's really important, and it's really very effective. And I'm here alive, without being addicted to opioids, able to walk, talk, express myself the way I express myself,
Right.
and it's really very important.
Well, that's great. That's kind of cool that you do what you do. And with this, hemp work, CBD oil, you wouldn't think a conductor would do those things, but um, I've met other musicians that do other things too. So it's kind of cool that that's
I
neat.
I know a
So
lot of musicians and conductors who are doing it, and they just don't tell you.
aha, aha. So the cat's out of the bag. And with that, I always like to say about performance. So kind of what I do, and I'll just fill in briefly. I sell sales training to organizations, all that fun stuff. I'll get off that, but performance. So we get into that word performance. So whatever we do in life, whether you're in sales, you're in sports, music, We could go on with theater. It's always a performance. So, what do you do daily? I'm just curious. Do you read? Do you write, reflect? How do you prepare yourself daily to do what you do, Kirk?
The first thing is self-improvement training. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of listening and watching self-improvement videos. That's
Wow.
one thing. Then I do reading just for me. I've got, my Kindle is full of books that I have read and have yet to read. I think that's really important.
Hmm.
Um, and In
Can,
terms of performance, I'm still studying scores that I may never conduct, but it keeps my mind agile.
right.
I've got subscription to the Chicago Symphony, which is not going to be performing until the spring. But I go and visit, and I see rehearsals, and I go to see great musicians and performers conduct. Um, Conductors conduct and performers
Right.
performing.
Right.
Um, to stay active and alive, I mean, it's a process. I'm living a life that I never thought that I would be able to live. My
Wow.
my parents died young. My dad died in his 40s. My mom died in her 50s. Um, I'm just intent on living the best possible life that I can in every possible way.
That's great. That's great. And the other thing I was going to ask you, what books, or can you share the type of books you're reading? I mean, are they self-help, or what type of books are you reading?
Those are books that you would recommend for anybody in business.
Hmm.
Um, I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan.
Okay. Okay.
I started with him in the mid '80s when I was teaching at Iowa State, and after going through that first big cassette deal that he had, I
Hmm.
immediately got a raise, a promotion, and jobs out of the wazoo because I got out of myself and so Tony Robbins has been a big part of my journey. And
Right.
all of the people that he looked at, I've looked at their books. I mean, Og Mandino, the old school people, Norman Vincent Peale, the old school
Okay.
people, um, and it's Bob Proctor is a huge guy. I mean, a huge guy who
Yes.
who shares amazing information that is otherworldly. And
Right.
I just would encourage people who want to be successful to look at those people who are successful and to read the stuff that they read,
Right.
and you can't lose with that kind of material.
Right. And I take it you can take that content and apply it, which I feel would probably make you a better conductor. I mean, just from that mindset, the teachings, what they're showing you, like you mentioned Tony Robbins or Bob Proctor. And by the way, Tony Robbins, that's like being a disciple from Jim Rohn is the guy that kind of started
Yeah.
all that. The philosophy determines outcomes or determines your finance, not the economy, and people don't, not everybody buys into that. And being responsible for you. And that's hard for some people because what's going on in our world today, which is going to lead me to my next question. You got COVID and everybody's pointing fingers and this and that and this and so, and no one wants to be accountable for your own actions.
Well, I tell you that the success training has helped me more as a teacher with college kids, um, because they are, or uh, uh, they were less influenced by all the crap around them. And you didn't have to, I didn't have to say, I'm saying this because Tony Robbins wrote it. I said,
Right.
how about this? Why don't you believe you can do this? Only if you work just a little bit and just a little bit more, we can do this together. How about this? Let's make
Right.
a deal. I will study only as hard as I expect you to practice. That kind of
Sure.
thing.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, it helps professional players. They can tell whether you're in it for the right reasons. You don't have to talk about success and this and that and the other. I mean, all you have to do is present yourself as an authentic person.
There you
Uh,
go. Yep.
And that's, that's the deal. I think it all comes down to that, just being an authentic person who knows what the heck he's doing.
And don't you feel like your college students that you're working with, they're looking for people that, when I, excuse me using this analogy, but I say be real, be raw, be resilient. And in within that, you are authentic because they get to see, hey, this guy's the real deal. He's trying to help me, better
Yeah.
myself. Because kids can pick up on a phony. I mean, big time. And you
In
mentioned
two
something.
seconds.
We didn't have excuse me, I'll move it over here. We didn't have these bad boys back in the day, the
No.
iPhone. And I always kid my sons. I got one guy, what is he, 20, 23? Yeah, the other guy's like 19, I guess. And I'm always telling them, get your head up. You're gonna miss something. Um, it's just amazing because that's their world, I mean, what you and I are doing right here, this kind of always say the Jetsons, this kind of reminds me of those cartoons. Here we are. This is our phone and we're doing this thing. But, it's just kind of weird when you look back where we've come from. Because you and I are roughly the same age. And what was that in the 80s, I guess? Yeah, we didn't have all this stuff, right? I mean,
No, they're floppy disks at best, and computers that looked like dinosaurs. Just absolutely crazy. They weren't even real video games at that time.
no,
But
no.
I'll tell you one thing. The thing that when students ask me, "What's your biggest piece of advice you can give me?" as I go, and I'll say, "Pay attention. Pay attention. Notice things around you. Pay attention. When you hear things, when you hear somebody who's giving really, a good master class, or a teacher standing there talking with students about life or performance or music, pay attention.
I got
Because
to Thank you, Chris. That's a friend of mine, Chris Rosh. I'm sorry, he'd like him. You're talking the books. That's the guy that he does a lot of. He's a coach, and
oh, good.
yeah.
Well, teachers, good teachers are all coaches, whether they realize it or not. Every time they walk into a classroom, every time you walk into a lecture hall, you're teaching students. You're teaching them how you walk into a room, how you
Hey, remember
address
this lady
other
here,
people.
Cindy? Hey, Cindy,
Cindy,
got us. Cindy, I'm going to say Cindy Loretti, but it's Cindy Cullen now. Did I get that
goodness.
right, Cindy? I mean, we're older, right? But it's good to see you. Thank you for joining in.
Oh, that's great. What a
Great to
wonderful
see you
flute
both.
player.
Hey, Chris. Chris, this gentleman right here I'm talking to now is a real live walking, talking conductor. I'm kid you not. Thank you, Cindy. It's always good to see you. And I know you've had some struggles in your life too, but that's what's neat about, and that brings me to my next point here, sir. Struggles. Everybody goes through struggles. And one thing you mentioned your father. I spent time in a hospice unit for about 4 days with my brother. I watched my father pass. Not fun to do, but that's the least I could do was spend those remaining days with him. I felt compelled to do it. And the nurses looked at my brother and I and said, you guys are weird that you're staying here. But I said, what this man's done for us, that's the least I can do. And, you know, it put things in perspective when that happened about 6 years ago, and just, and you know where I'm coming from. You lost both your parents. So, and then I said, now I know what it's like to be officially orphaned. And, it kind of stuck in my mind, like, why are we here? What's our purpose? The way you treat people. I know Chris Rosh, he's a great coach. He talks about that all the time, and doing what you want to do and being responsible for you and looking and the way you treat people with dignity and respect. My parents always told me that. Don't look down. It's not like you're up here, they're down here. And I think the older we get, we appreciate the goodness out of people. And I see hope because I'm around younger kids, and I think there's some really, and I'm sure you see it too. There's some really great kids out there. I'm very impressed, with what's coming up, the future. We kid, And look at this. See, he's going to hit us now. Purpose to make the world a better place every day we're alive. He goes, yes, yes, yes. And if you ever get a chance, every morning this guy Chris walks his dog. And through all this, I've met various people, Kirk, through technology. So it's not a bad thing. Live streaming, and here I am talking to you. I just felt compelled. One day I said, I need to talk to you. I don't know what it was, but I saw the CBD oil and all this and that. And the one comment you posted was a piece of blank paper on a notepad. This is what you're entitled to. And it was blank. And I'll never forget that. That stuck in my mind. There's that smile. But no, that is so profound. I mean, and I think today, and I tell my sons, nobody owes you anything. You're not entitled. You have to put in the work and earn it. And I've been through some trials and tribulations. I won't get into that, but I know you have with your health. And I'm very, I look around, I see some of my classmates and some of them aren't around even from high school, college, and it's sad, but life is so short.
Yeah. Well, one thing that you mentioned before was the idea of resilience. And there's an author by the name of Paul Tough, that's Tough,
Mm-hmm.
who talks about resilience as a thing that kids really need. I mean, kids in high school, kids in college, that once they hit a roadblock, they fall apart. And the difference between kids that have this concept of resilience and don't, the ones that have the concept that have to go through tough stuff end up being successful. And the ones who go crying and go home, that's not
Right.
happening. And
Right.
that's I some of the places that I've taught, some of the universities that I've taught now, they have comfort animals in the library in case students get upset during exams.
Wow.
They have safe zones where you can go and not be threatened by anybody else's opinion. I mean, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Really? I mean, if you have to have a safe zone and a comfort animal, then you ought not be in college.
Right.
And that's where it is. And I hope I'm not offending anyone, but good Lord, have mercy. There has to be the sense of I'm going to make it. Nobody's going to stop me. You can't stop me unless I have my comfort animal,
Right.
which is a stranger. You can literally go to the university library and find a strange animal that you can cuddle with, a real live animal that you can cuddle
Right.
with. What resilience? I It's really frustrating because because our young people need to know that no matter what, they can push through it. They can
Right.
push through it, which is what you've had to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and what I've had to do, and
Right.
all of a sudden is, well, don't worry about it. We'll make things easy for you, and that's the
Right.
worst possible thing you can do.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm passionate about that though.
No, no, that's great. This is great stuff. And Chris says victim or victor, our choice. Blame or being a walking pity party is not being a victor. And I agree with that totally. It seems like we get into the blame game. And I hate the blame game. And I used to
Yeah.
do it, and every now and once in a while I catch myself. My wife will say, don't go down that road, blame game. I'm like, you're right, that's my fault. My grandfather had a statement, and as a little kid, I remember him saying, the problems you have 9 times out of 10, you create yourself. And my dad used to labor on that. And then as I got older, I thought about it and I said, well, there is some validity to that. It's about choices and what you choose to do or not do. And that's what's hard, I think. Not hard. It's you mentioned the word easy. They want easy, and there's no quick fix. Everybody I know that's been successful, like you or any of our classmates, Chris, Cindy, we've all gone through some adversity, and that's part of the process of life. And the quicker you figure it out, the better off you're going to be. Like, no one ask you, hey, Kirk, your dad's going to, leave the face of the earth at 40 and your mom at 50. In fact, you were in college, if I remember this. Didn't that happen? Your father, did he not die of a heart attack? Or I can't remember. He used to
Yeah.
run every day, I think. I remember I
He
remember
was a,
that.
and
But you know what I
he,
remember most about you?
what?
You weren't even phased by it. I mean, I know you were hurting, but it's like you were at the rehearsal. And I'm like, oh my God, look at this dude. I mean,
I was phased by it, but I knew I had to get stuff done.
right. I
There
mean,
was
you were
no,
just like boom. I mean,
yeah,
and for you were, I don't know, how old were you then? Maybe were you 19, 20?
probably 20, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. For someone
19,
that
19 or 20.
age, that to me is being resilient. I mean, but your dad was probably looking down saying, yeah, well done, my son. You've got things to do. And that's what's hard. I think we all struggle with it. Everybody thinks, like my son's getting ready to get married. So I got to sit down and talk to him because my dad told me and talked to me. And he said, this is what's going to happen throughout your life. Enjoy today. And you're going to have this struggle and that struggle. And you're going to have financial crisis. You're going to have maybe a job loss. You're going to have, I don't know exactly, but these things are going to creep in. And I'm like, what's he talking about? But it's true. Did you not go through some of these things? Health issues. He mentioned that. Unexpected. Or someone's going to leave you. Or maybe even, God forbid, divorce or whatever the case may be.
Well,
So
it's the aspect of being an adult has become passé. I mean, you grow up to be an adult. You don't grow up to be a child, and it's up to us to make sure that our kids and the people that we have
thank you,
influence
Chris.
with, uh, they're not growing up to be an adult. They're not growing up to live in mama's basement forever. They're growing up to be an adult. You get to the point where you say, hey, I'm going to leave the nest. I'm going to make my way. I'm going to success or have success or failure, but I'm not growing up to be an adult. I'm not growing up to be a child, which
Hmm.
is which is where we are now. I'm going to grow up. I'm going to go to college, graduate with a couple of degrees, and I'm growing up to be a child. I have no responsibility. Nothing
Wow.
faces me. That I and I don't think I'm exaggerating. That there's a major part of our society that are growing up to be children rather than growing up to be adults who will take responsibility, take charge, go forward, do their thing, have influence over lots of people. But now we have, I'm growing up to be a child. Don't bother me with adult stuff. You know, don't bother me with that thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my bugaboo, I think.
So I got to ask you, I put this in the context since I umpire baseball. Believe it or not, I do this. I still keep a hand at music. In fact, Chris is a big music freak over here. He's always challenging me on tunes if I know what this song or that is. We text one another. But 3-2 moment in life, everybody has one. Bases loaded, it's 3-2, full count. And everybody, what was the moment for you, Kirk, when you said, damn it, this is it. I don't care. This is what I want to do. This is my purpose. And I'm not going to worry about what this person over here thinks, that person over there thinks. Not that you're mean, but you're focused. And it's like, this is why I'm here. And the heck with it. I'm going full bore. When was that?
It was probably after Shenandoah when I was interviewing for grad schools, and I had heard through a doorway, well, this guy doesn't, it doesn't look like he doesn't look like a conductor, whatever. And I thought to myself, I have nothing to lose. I'm just going to go for this, and I was offered a full ride as a graduate student, had my
Great.
own ensemble as a graduate student, and I was just at that point, for whatever reason, I was just sick of people saying either in front of me or behind my back, "You can't do this."
Hmm.
And you have two choices. You can accept that, Oh, they say I can't do this. Okay, I can't do this. Or you can say, screw this. Screw this. You're going to have to take it away from me. And I think that's really important. I think that 3-2 moment is a moment that not many people are having these days. It's, oh, you're uncomfortable. Well, let's make it comfortable for you. Well, let's make this happen for you. Oh, we'll make sure you're happy about this. No, it's a 3-2 moment. The bases are loaded. There are two outs, and it's up to you to do something. Strike out, sure. Bunt, hit a home
Right.
run, but you got to do something. And I hope that if I've imparted nothing to my students, only that you have to do something. You
Right.
have to do something. You can't just step back and go, hey, it's not up to me anymore. Yeah, it is
Right.
up to you.
Right. Right. That brings me to the next point, Kirk. Is it okay to fail? I mean, so many people are afraid. There's that word, fail or fear, the false evidence that appears real, fear. So is it wrong to fail? I don't think so, but what's your take on that? Because you're around younger people, students. Are they afraid to fail?
Oh, darn tootin', they're afraid to fail. In baseball, you're doing really well if you hit a baseball 3 out of 10 times.
Right.
That means you're failing 7 out of 10 times.
Right.
And people get paid millions of dollars to hit 333. And they're
Yeah.
considered to be great hitters. But yet, if a kid is presented with an opportunity and they go, well, wait a minute, I might not be able to do this. Well, why the heck not? Okay, you won't do it this time, but you'll learn why you didn't do it. So you do it the next time. But we have made things so comfortable for people that we don't want to see them fail. Oh my God! Well, if they fail, what will they think of me as a parent? What will they think of me as a minister? What will they think of me if they fail at this? Oh my God! We can't let that happen. No, yeah, let it happen. It failure creates hunger in most human beings. I mean, if you go out, we take you, Mark, and
Hmm.
we put you in the middle of nowhere, and you go, well, what am I supposed to do now? Am I supposed to gather food? Am I supposed to get shelter? I don't know. I might fail. Well, yeah, you'll die.
Right.
So it just the element of failure. Everybody fails. You can't be afraid of it. Some people say you have to embrace failure. I don't think you have to embrace it. You just have to learn from it.
There you go.
It just you have to learn from it. You have to embrace it to that standard that you're learning what you need to do in the next circumstance.
That's a great point, Kirk. I mean, I
By the
can't
way,
argue with
I
you.
you never gave me these questions ahead of time. I'm thinking,
No,
oh
I
my
did
God,
not.
what is Mark going to ask next?
No,
Oh
I
my
know. I
goodness.
know. No, I did not. You're a deep thinker. I can tell. I can tell you read, and it's showing. And not only that, you practice what you read, what you preach. Which I feel like as an educator of life, music, being a conductor, you're the type of guy I'd want to hang out with, from a musical perspective. I mean, because you know so much now you, through the stratosphere. I mean, I remember when I saw the word pesante. You'll laugh at this, and I said, "Does that mean you play that in a poor or peasant-like manner?" And somebody looked at me and went, "Dude, what are you talking about? Pesante? Go look it up." And this is like maybe my first year, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that means like in a heavy, weighty, accented, or all these crazy musical terms, poco poco agitato, and I'm like, what does all this craziness mean?" And um, but I think music. Don't you think music kind of brings us together? I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, music is a universal language. Visual art is a universal language. You have people standing around looking at a painting, and they all see different things, but they all see something. You have people listening to a concert. They all hear different things, but they hear something, and they may think, well, this means this to me, and another person says this means this to me, but they don't sit there going, I don't know. I mean, there's something that happens, and especially live music, no matter what kind of live music it is, you can't sit at a live music concert and go, I didn't feel a thing.
Cindy just agreed with you here. Music is the universal language. And with that, I mean, I, when I went there, I guess I'm going to get into something here. I didn't think of this ethnicity. My wife's Greek and she's Greek Orthodox, but I didn't think about all that. I was like, hey, these guys are trying to create this this music, and I don't care who's up there conducting or who's next to me, or I got a job to do, they got a job to do, and let's just do it. And now it's like everybody wants to say you're left, you're right, you're this party, that party. I'll stay out of all the political stuff. This guy says that, and it's crazy. But when you put notes on a page, it is amazing what happens, and the people bring the music to life. I mean, you of all people know that. I mean, manuscript, even if it's done digitally now with all the technology we have, but the people, they make it happen. And
Well, I wouldn't want to be in any other profession. Um, I,
I'm
you get,
envious, man. I really am, because I think back, a lot of things like, this guy over here is acting like a butthead. If he would just like look at it like from a musical perspective, he'd get like everybody has a part to play. Like first chair, second chair, third chair, first clarinet, second clarinet, third, doesn't matter, or the strings. It all comes together, so I don't care if you're playing 15th part or chair, you're a part of the mission. And I think today we look at, well, he makes this much more money than me, or he lives in a bigger house than me. And we get all kind of wound up in that. I'm not saying it's bad to succeed, but you can't just look at material things and say, yeah, this is where it's at. I mean, does that make sense?
somewhere I read that the level of your success depends upon how many people you help succeed. And it may have
Hmm.
come from Tony Robbins, it may have come from somebody else, but um, the level of your success depends upon how many people you help to succeed. And that's the way I look at it. If I've got students that are making far more money than I am, former students. I've got people who are far more successful in their industries who I can call upon and get advice from. Um, that to me is success.
That's great. I mean, and you picked it up there. And so you stole my question, because you must have read my mind here, because I have written down here, define success. So you just did for us. And with that, Kirk, do you have any students that want to be conductors, or that you're mentoring?
Yeah, uh, more and more every day who will
What's that
call.
like? What's that like?
It's unreal because I remember being that stupid kid in his 20s who was anxious to learn everything that he could. And so I don't, you know, I rarely charge money for my time because
Really?
those kids, yeah, because those, oh, how do you charge for advice? Oh, I'll spend an hour with you so I get $100. I mean, I've never had a conducting teacher that has ever charged me, and I've
Tremendous.
studied with some pretty famous people.
Yes, you
Um,
have.
so when I get kids who are like, "Can you help me?" Of course I can, because that helps me to succeed because I've succeeded in helping somebody else, and that's really important. Um, so it may be stupid. I could make more money, but I would feel horrible with a 25-year-old who's barely making it month to month and charging them for common sense.
Right.
You know, I can't do it. So that is a process that is surreal for me because I can still remember asking the same questions. And the only difference is that when a kid asks you for advice and they don't take it, I'm done with it. You know, like you asked me if you didn't want to know and you didn't want to do it. I'm like
Sure.
Debbie. I'm like Debbie. You're done with it. You know, you didn't really want to do it. You're just talking about it.
Right. Right.
So I hope she doesn't see this because she would be kind of
No,
embarrassed.
I don't
But
worry about it. There could be people that just so you know, don't get alarmed. But yes, I did put this out there to alumni. So they may not see it live, but they may see it on a rebroadcast somewhere down the road. But no, I think that's a great point. My next question is, do you get help from a community perspective? I take it, do you still live in Baltimore or no? Okay, that's where you
I
grew
live
up.
in I live in Houston.
Oh, really? Okay, wow. So do you help out there with kids, volunteer work, or do you bring them
Um,
into the orchestra and
I,
give them an introductory or
Houston. How can I put it politely? I conduct more in other places than I conduct in Houston.
really
Because I live here, and it's like the dude's here. He can't be, whatever. And
can't be a
so,
guest conductor?
yeah, it doesn't bother me now. It did before, but it doesn't bother me now. But that's fine. I'd much rather much rather conduct places where I'm wanted to conduct, and I'm definitely not wanted to conduct here. And I don't
Mhm.
care who watches. I don't care who hears it. But um, it's a darned shame, and that's okay.
Right.
That's okay. It's life. It's one of those things. So I'm enjoying conducting. I mean, now nobody's conducting. I mean,
And I was
nobody's
gonna
playing.
that was gonna ask, like, live performance wise, what do you see, what's happening? I mean, what are you doing, or how's it? I've
What
seen
I'm trying,
things done live stream, like they put together these little package deals, but what do you know? Do you know when you're gonna go out and
well, oddly enough, in the European Union, there are more live performances done in a common sense way where there's social distancing on stage and there's social distancing in the audience. In fact, I was just talking with a singer who just did a choral concert in the Zurich area, who they said, well, we sang in a huge place, we all social distance, and everybody in the audience was wearing masks for whatever that does. But we're performing. I mean, the Berlin Philharmonic is performing. You know,
wow.
they didn't stop going to school. They didn't stop their businesses. So they just soldiered on. But here we're stopping everything except protesting. Um, and liquor stores. You can go to any liquor store. You can have 80 people in the liquor store, and it's okay. But you can't have 80 people in the audience. I don't know. Um, so
Or you can't
so
go to church, or
you can't go. Oh no, you can't go to church, but
yeah,
you can go to Walmart.
yeah.
That's okay. Hey, you know what? I saw a video of a church service being held in Walmart because that's the only place they could go and have a lot of people.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, to your question, what I'm trying to arrange is a series of performances across the country of socially distancing kind of things on the stage. Not a lot of players, but
Right.
really good music, and to go from city to city to do that, and that's a project for me because this isn't going to change. Broadway is not opening until after the first of the year. you
Really.
know yeah, they're
Right.
not opening. The restaurants are not opening, indoor restaurants in New York,
Mhm.
for the foreseeable future. I mean, we gotta do something. We
Right.
got to do something, or else people are going to be walking around eating each other. We'll have the invasion of the zombies
Yeah.
without
Body
this thing.
snatchers or something. I don't.
Yes, yeah.
So, and let me ask you this, Kirk. So, you're a person of color, and the reason I'm bringing this up, like people say, conductor. Now you're talking about younger kids. I think this is a great role model because you're breaking the barriers, man. And like I always say this: there's no excuse. My dad used to say this: you can do anything you want to do if you really want to do it, and be sincere and passionate about putting in the work and getting it done. how do kids look at you when they see you up there conducting? Have you ever done like any youth symphony stuff or
all the time. I mean, that's you know, I think kids' perceptions have changed over the past decades.
sure.
I remember decades ago, decades ago, when I would have to visit high school programs to recruit, black orchestra players coming up to me and said, "I've never seen a black conductor. I've never
Really?
seen a black conductor." And I
Wow.
said, "Well, I've never seen a black bass player like you who has never seen a black conductor." And that sort of breaks the ice,
Oh yeah,
um,
that's cool.
and said, "Hey, we're out there. We're not aliens. We're out there.
Right.
We're
Oh,
out doing our thing."
absolutely.
I just think it's a matter of making sure that people are comfortable with the fact that whether you're black, white, woman,
Sure.
whatever classification you are, that if you know what you're doing, you can do it. And it kind of bothers me that the biggest time that I get conducting gigs is in February. Oh, we'll bring out the black conductors for Black History Month, but
I was
February we
gonna
got
okay.
and generally, I mean, now I'm like, no, unless I get another engagement at another time, no, no, absolutely not, no. And
Right.
it's just, I think, I think the sooner people get over differences,
Sure.
the sooner they understand that we're pretty much the same. I mean, if
Right.
you look at it, we're pretty much the same. We're all weird, we're all interesting,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's like, oh, he's black. He doesn't want to listen to Beethoven. Well, yeah, I love Beethoven. Or
Right.
I would get this. Oh, you're a conductor. What jazz orchestra do you conduct? What? Really? Seriously?
But you probably listen to all different types of music, Kirk, don't you? I mean, seriously?
Yeah, I do. I do. But you can't identify. You can't go, oh, that's Mark Gassert. He's gonna want to listen to Alabama.
Right. Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
who knows what you want to listen to? But nobody will ever say Mark Gassert. He wants to listen to Count Basie Orchestra. Nobody's going to say, "Oh
Right.
yeah, that's Mark Gassert. He wants to." How about this? We all like stuff.
Right.
We're all not stereotypes. We're
Sure.
not stereotypes, and I
Right.
think that the thing that gets to all of us is being stereotyped by people who haven't done anything in their lives.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that, if anything makes me upset, it's being stereotyped by an idiot.
Right.
So,
Okay.
there you go.
And I think that was a great point because when we went to school, there you talk about diversity. I mean, just personalities. They're all over the place at Shenandoah and ethnicities. I mean, it wasn't huge, but I mean, there were just differences. I never thought anything of it. I mean, it's like, okay, cool. And it's like you said, I think I heard, Tom Wilkins, he's a conductor like you.
It's the reason
And
why I'm in the business.
yes, yes. And he brought up that subject that the different types of music he listened to. He mentioned, I think I saw where he said I listened to some country tune, and you wouldn't think, but when you're in that profession, music, I mean, you work with various artists too. I mean, in different styles. It's not just orchestra. So
Well,
would you,
the stereotype of an orchestra conductor is of a wild hair, maniac who throws things and who has temper tantrums. And
right,
it's the furthest thing from our business. And the person who will only do Mozart and will only do this and will only do that. And then you're expected to be a young Bernstein with experience as a 70-year-old. I mean,
right,
it's just so unrealistic what people's phony expectations are, and the joy for me is proving them wrong. You
right.
know, just going and doing the thing and getting along with people, and then going home to my thing.
Right. And let me ask you this, since you are an educator continually, um, do you feel like kids today, there you mentioned more distractions, but do you feel like they put in the work and the time to master their craft on an instrument? Do you see that? I mean, I'm sure you see some, but what do you see coming up with live music? Because some people divert to technology to make it happen. So I'm just curious.
It's much easier today to make music without knowing a damn thing about it than it ever has been. You can buy a program. In fact, I taught a class, I don't know, it may have been 10 years ago, where students who didn't read music, had never played music, didn't know what music was, could make songs and pieces through a computer program. So that's easy on
Wow.
that standpoint. But there are still parents out there that say, you're not going to be sitting here playing computer games all day. You're going to learn that, you're going to either act or draw or paint or be involved in some sort of live music until you have the ability to say, I don't want to do this anymore. And those are the parents that I love who will uh, who will ask that their kids be better than they are. And
Right.
those are the kids that I love working with who will come and pray. At the colleges that I've taught, the kids who were the most diehard were the non-music majors who came in the morning at 6:30 to practice so that they would be ready for orchestra rehearsal. The music
That's neat.
majors were the ones who were lazy as heck. The
That's neat.
non-music majors. So there's hope. There's always hope, but it depends on parents and it depends on their general community. We're all depending upon peer pressure and all of that stuff. Uh, we just have to work at it. I mean, we have to work at it every day. Teachers have to work at it
And
because
I
it's
want to
not easy.
share this, and I think he said, Ron Goodwin, he's a good friend of mine. Kids are the future, and the future looks bright, he said. Uh, I tend to agree with him there, but I was just curious from a music perspective because, you know, there it's like you mastered a clarinet at one time in your life, or I don't know if you want to use the word master, but you're always working at your craft. And it just looks like some people want to take that easy way and say, well, you know what, if I get this machine, like you were saying, and I can create some rhythmic, background and do a little of this, that, I can put something together and put it out there and, voila. And I'm not knocking rap and all. That's not what I'm saying. There are some talented people in that profession, yes, but there's something to be said for a live orchestra. And when I say orchestra, it could be a jazz combo, it could be someone like a Miles Davis, a full-fledged orchestra, an opera singer. There's something to be said for that. That when you go see something live, it does something to me. It puts some goosebumps on your arm, and it makes you realize how small you are in this universe. That, wow, this person's giving their heart and soul to me right now for the next 30, 40 minutes, and I really respect that.
Well, I had a recent experience where I was doing a few years of high school teaching, and I would listen to students say, I'm going to try out for the baseball team. All I have to do is look at a couple of YouTubes in order to learn how to throw and hit and catch. And then I'm ready to go and join the varsity baseball team. And I'd look at them and I'd just start laughing and say, well, good luck with that, son. I mean, seriously, you've never played baseball, but you're going to look at YouTube and say, well, I don't want to have to worry about the practicing and all of that. I'll just look at a YouTube and I'll figure it out.
Right.
Okay. That is a product of what some people believe. With music, you can't fake it. You can't look at a YouTube and learn how to play trombone. You
No, that's
can't
true.
do it.
No, that's
You can't.
true.
It's like I've looked at the YouTube. I got the embouchure thing down. Yeah, just put some music in front of me and I'll just fake it. You can't do it.
No.
So the difficulty of success in life still remains within the person that they have to want it so bad that they're going to actually work at it. And Mark, it looks like I'm running out of power here, and I can't. There's no way that I can hook up to re-up. So
Okay.
Uh, I didn't want to
So
let.
do we need to cut this off? And that's okay. We can come back again.
We can come, but let's do it again.
Yes.
Um, but I am serious. I'm down to 10%.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to wrap it up, Kirk. But with that, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us and everyone else out here that came on board. I'd love to do this again with you and pick it up where we left off because you have so much to offer. And like I told you, and I truly mean this, uh, I consider you my brother, not just that we pledge the same fraternity, but you are a good man, sir. And I would want my children to learn from someone like you with the mindset you have, because I know what's
Thank
in
you,
your
Mark.
heart, and that speaks eons of the man. And I'm being very sincere about that. I don't know any other way to tell you that, but I love you, man, and what you're doing, I think, is great. And by the way, Ron Goodwin and all the rest of you, I'm totally marveled that he's a CBD oil closing business daily type guy. I'm kidding when I say that, but I think that's tremendous that you're doing that as well. Um, so you are, to me, a Renaissance man. You're old school and you're keeping up with the times, and you're mentoring kids, and I'm envious, man. I think that's great that you do that.
Mark, I appreciate it. I love you too. You are a great guy. Uh, I too know your story, and I admire you a great deal. And I appreciate you wanting to talk to me because I'm just a guy. I'm just
Well,
here.
oh, here we go. Cindy's going to say, yeah. Hey, Cindy, always good to see you, and hope everybody's doing well in your family too. Um, I haven't been to a reunion. I haven't been back to that university other than I've been up that way and shown my kids where I went to school, but I haven't been there since. Have you ever been to a reunion
Well, I
at
was on the board.
Shenandoah?
Yeah, I was on the board for the alumni
I figured
board
you
for
were.
about 12 years. So I've
Wow.
I've I've been there occasionally. They're not doing a real reunion this time. They're doing a virtual homecoming
Virtual.
thing. But I think next year there'll be. Oops, I'm losing it here.
Okay.
I think next year the real thing's going to happen. And I really appreciate being with you. Let's please do this again. Let's do it
No, we
again.
will. And yes, I agree, Cindy. And with that, I'm going to end it, everybody. Kirk, thank you so much once again. This was Mark's message. Peachtree Corners, Georgia. Peachiest place on the planet. Yes, next year. I got you, Cindy. And with that, always in Mark's message, be a leader, be a friend, be a service. This was Kirk Smith's night. We're going to come back and do part two of this. Kirk, thank you so much, and we'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.